In the bustling heart of Lagos, a billionaire named Kola Adeyemi, a man of power, wealth, and poise, finds love not in the boardrooms of Victoria Island, but in the dusty aisles of Balogun Market, where a young lady mends shoes with gentle hands and a proud smile. Their worlds couldn't be farther apart, but love, stubborn and fierce, pays no attention to class or criticism. The sun blazed mercilessly over Balogun Market, turning the air thick with heat and the smell of engine fumes. Traders shouted prices, buses honked impatiently, and hawkers balanced trays of fruit and sachet water on their heads. Amid the chaos, life pulsed with the fierce rhythm that only Lagos could produce. Kola Adeyemi stood at the edge of the busy road, his driver bent beside their black Range Rover fixing a flat tire. Dressed in a crisp white shirt, navy trousers, and polished Italian shoes, Kola looked almost out of place. People passing by turned to stare, some recognizing him from magazines, others just struck by his quiet, commanding presence. He checked his watch. He was due at a board meeting in an hour, but something about the hum of the market caught his attention. He rarely had moments like this, unplanned, free. Without saying a word to his driver, he stepped away from the car and began walking deeper into the maze of stalls. He passed women selling Ankara fabric in bright yellows and blues, men calling out, "Oga, come buy leather belt," and a group of children chasing after a football between rows of shops. The scent of roasted plantain and fried fish mixed with dust and exhaust. Then he saw her. A young woman sat beneath a faded umbrella by the corner of a shoe stand. Her small workbench was covered with worn-out shoes, glue, and brushes. She wore a simple, clean Ankara gown, her hair neatly braided back, her dark chocolate skin gleaming with sweat. She was mending a man's sandal, her hands moving with the precision of someone who had done this 1,000 times. Her name, painted in blue on a small wooden board beside her, read, Amara Shoe Repairs. Kola slowed his steps, watching her in silence for a few moments. She didn't look up. Her attention was fixed on her work, her brow slightly furrowed in concentration. A small boy, her younger brother, he guessed, sat beside her, counting the few naira notes they had earned that day. Something in that scene pierced through him. He had seen beauty before, expensive beauty, manicured, polished, but this was different. There was dignity in her labor, grace in her humility. "Good afternoon, madam," he said finally, his voice deep and smooth. She glanced up briefly, her eyes warm but cautious. "Good afternoon, sir. You want me to fix your shoes?" He looked down at his Italian loafers and smiled. "They're fine. I just saw how focused you were. You're very skilled." A slight blush colored her cheeks. "Thank you. I've been doing this since I was 16. My mother taught me before she passed." "I'm sorry," he said quietly. She nodded, eyes dropping back to her work. "It's life, sir. You just keep moving." He watched her for another moment, noticing the small scar by her temple, the tiredness in her eyes that couldn't hide their quiet fire. She didn't beg. She didn't flatter him. She just worked, unbothered by his presence. "What's your name?" he asked. "Amara." "Amara," he repeated softly as if tasting the name. "It suits you." She chuckled, a shy, musical sound. "And you, sir? You look like one of those big men that have people calling them chairman." Kola smiled, a real smile, not the public one he wore at corporate events. "You could say that. My name's Kola." "Nice to meet you, Kola," she said, focusing back on a torn leather strap. "If you don't need shoe repair, please stand small. Your shadow is blocking my light." He laughed, genuinely amused. It had been a long time since someone spoke to him that way, directly, without fear or flattery. When she finished fixing the shoe in front of her, she handed it to the waiting customer, who paid and left. Kola stepped closer and asked quietly, "You don't have a shop?" She shook her head. "Rent in this market is high. I just stay here for now. But one day, God will provide. I'll have my own place." "I believe you will," he said. Her brother, about 10 years old, tugged at her gown. "Sister, the glue is almost finished." "Okay, Chike, I'll buy another one after this man's shoe." Kola looked at the boy, then at her. "Your brother?" "Yes. I'm taking care of him since our parents passed." Her words hit him quietly. He could hear the strength behind her simplicity, the kind of strength money couldn't buy. He checked his watch again, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a sleek, silver business card. You close around what time? She hesitated. By 7, usually. But he smiled faintly. Because I'd like to see you again. Maybe it's ya. No business, no formality. She looked at the card in disbelief. You want to take me out? Me, Amar, the shoe fixer? Exactly, he said, his eyes soft but serious. Amara, the woman who works hard and still smiles. She studied him for a moment, searching for any hint of mockery. There was none. He was sincere. Okay, she said finally, tucking the card into her small handbag. We'll see. As he walked away, the wind lifted his shirt slightly, and he could still feel her eyes on him. For reasons he couldn't explain, the noise of the market faded behind him, replaced by the quiet sound of her laughter echoing in his mind. For the first time in a long while, the billionaire felt alive. And for Amara, who had spent years buried in dust and hardship, that brief encounter felt like a spark, a strange, unfamiliar pull toward something bigger than the life she'd always known. Neither of them knew that day, beneath the sun and market dust, love had already begun writing their story. The evening air over Lagos shimmered with warmth and the smell of roasted meat. Neon lights flickered to life as the city began its nightly transformation, from the chaos of work to the pulse of laughter, music, and traffic. Amara stood by the corner of Tinubu Square, clutching her small brown handbag and glancing at her phone screen for the 10th time. The name, Kola Adeyemi, stared back at her. She had told herself she wouldn't call, that rich men like him were trouble. But curiosity, stronger than fear, had won. She had dialed his number 2 hours ago. And now he was here. The black Range Rover pulled up beside her with quiet authority. The driver's window rolled down, and Kola's familiar deep voice said, "You kept your word." Amara blinked, caught between excitement and disbelief. "I almost didn't." He smiled. "Then I'm glad you did." He stepped out of the car and walked around to open the passenger door for her. His scent, clean, subtle, expensive, drifted in the air. She hesitated before getting in, still overwhelmed by the luxury of the car's soft leather seats. As he started the engine, she looked around at the glowing dashboard. "This car alone can build me 10 shoe shops." Kola laughed softly. "Then maybe I'll help you build them someday." She turned to him, startled. "You're joking, right?" "Maybe," he said, glancing at her with a teasing smile. "Or maybe not." They drove through the vibrant streets of Ikoyi, where laughter spilled out of lounges and the scent of grilled suya hung in the air. Kola parked near Glover Court Suya Spot, one of his favorite hidden escapes from his corporate world. He stepped out and came around to her side again, opening the door. "Welcome to the best suya in Lagos." Amara laughed nervously. "I thought billionaires don't eat suya." "Who told you that?" He teased, guiding her toward a table beneath a thatched umbrella. "We just don't tell people we do." The suya men worked behind smoky grills, slicing beef into thin strips and sprinkling yaji with swift, practiced motions. The sound of sizzling meat, laughter, and distant music filled the space. They sat at a small wooden table under the glow of a hanging bulb. Kola loosened his collar and leaned back, watching her with amused eyes. "You look tense, Amar." She shrugged. "I'm sitting with a man who probably has breakfast meetings in London and dinner in Dubai. This isn't my world." Kola chuckled. "Then maybe your world is exactly where I've been trying to go." She raised an eyebrow. "You mean Balagan Market?" "Why not?" he said, grinning. "There's more honesty in that market than in half the boardrooms I sit in." The suya arrived, hot, peppered, served with onions, tomatoes, and a cold bottle of malt. Amara took a small piece, closing her eyes as the spice hit her tongue. "This pepper will kill person." She laughed, fanning her mouth. Kola burst out laughing, his rich baritone voice turning heads. "You see? You're alive now. That's Lagos suya for you." He reached for a napkin and, without thinking, gently wiped a smear of pepper from her lip. Their eyes met, and the noise around them faded. The gesture was small, but it felt intimate, too intimate. Amara looked away quickly. "You shouldn't do that." "Do what?" "Touch me like that. People are watching." He leaned closer, his voice low and calm. Let them watch. After their meal, he suggested, let's take a drive. There's something I want to show you. They drove in comfortable silence, the city lights reflecting off the car's glass. The radio played soft Afrobeats, and every now and then, Kola would glance at her, captivated by how she hummed along shyly. When they reached Elagushi Beach, the night was deep blue and alive with the sound of waves. The moon hung low, silver light rippling across the water. They walked barefoot on the sand, shoes in their hands, the cool sea breeze sweeping away the tension. Amara stopped to stare at the horizon. I've never been here at night. It feels like the world is sleeping. He nodded. That's why I come here. It's one of the few places where no one asks for meetings or contracts. She turned to him, surprised. You get lonely too? He looked down at her, his expression softening. Sometimes. Success can be very noisy and very empty. There was something raw in his voice, something real that pulled at her heart. He took a step closer, their faces inches apart. The wind carried the scent of salt and suya and something new, something electric between them. Kola, she whispered, uncertain. Amara, he murmured, brushing a strand of hair from her face. I haven't stopped thinking about you since the market. Her breath caught. You don't even know me. He smiled faintly. Maybe not. But my heart recognized you before my mind did. And before she could respond, he kissed her, slowly, tenderly. The kiss tasted of spice and ocean breeze, of everything wild and forbidden about what they were doing. For a moment, Amara forgot who he was, who she was supposed to be. There was only warmth, and the steady beat of his heart as he held her close. When they finally broke apart, she whispered, You shouldn't be here with me. Maybe this is exactly where I'm supposed to be, he replied. On the drive back, silence filled the car again, but this time it was comfortable, sweet. He dropped her off near her street, and as she opened the door, he said quietly, Tomorrow, come with me. I want to show you something different. She hesitated. You're serious? He smiled, his eyes catching the streetlight. Dead serious. As she stepped out, he added softly, And Amara? Yes? Don't ever think you're beneath me. You're just from a different kind of beautiful. Her heart skipped. She closed the door, watching the Range Rover glide away into the night. The city around her was still the same, dusty, noisy, alive, but something inside her had changed. Love, silent and stubborn, had begun its quiet climb. The night air in Lagos was thick with quiet promise when the black Range Rover turned into Banana Island, the most luxurious neighborhood in the city. Towering palm trees lined the paved roads, and modern mansions sparkled with golden lights. It was a world Amara had only seen in magazines, a world far from the dusty corners of Balagan Market where she spent her days fixing shoes. Kola's home stood at the far end of the estate, a grand waterfront mansion that seemed to float above the lagoon. Its exterior was sleek, with glass walls, cream stone, and elegant lighting that made it glow like a jewel. As the iron gates opened silently, Amara gasped softly. Kola, this is your house? She whispered. He smiled as he parked and turned to her. Welcome to my world. They stepped out, and the cool night breeze carried the faint scent of the ocean. She followed him up marble steps into a vast open living room that took her breath away. The house looked like a dream. Modern Nigerian interior design blended perfectly with warmth and soul. Cream marble floors gleamed under soft pendant lights. The walls were adorned with abstract African art, and the furniture, white leather sofas, glass tables, and gold accents, spoke of elegance without arrogance. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed a view of the lagoon, where city lights danced on the water. A soft hum of jazz played from hidden speakers, filling the silence. Amara stood at the center of the room, lost in awe. This place looks like heaven. Kola smiled faintly, watching her face light up. It's just a house. Without life in it, it's only walls and glass. She turned to him. But it's beautiful. So are you, he said softly. Her cheeks warmed. You like saying things that make women speechless, don't you? He laughed, the sound low and warm. Only when I mean them. He led her to the balcony overlooking the water. The night wind teased her braids as she leaned against the glass railing, looking out at the glowing skyline. Boats moved quietly in the distance, their lights flickering like stars. "You live here alone?" she asked. "Yes," he said, joining her. "It's peaceful but lonely sometimes." "Someone like you? Lonely?" He exhaled slowly. "Money can buy quiet, but not peace. I have everything except someone who looks at me the way you do." Amara turned, her voice soft. "And how do I look at you?" "Like I'm a man," he said. "Not a billionaire, not a so, just a man." Their eyes held, and the air between them grew still. He took a step closer, brushing a finger along her cheek. Her breath hitched as she felt the warmth of his touch. "You make me forget what pretending feels like," he murmured. "Kola," she whispered, uncertain, her heart racing. He searched her eyes. "Tell me to stop and I will." But she didn't. Instead, she reached up and touched his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath the fabric of his shirt. "Don't stop." Their lips met, slowly at first, then deeper, fuller. It wasn't just attraction. It was discovery, need, connection. His hand slid behind her neck, his touch tender but certain. She melted against him, tasting a world she'd never known before. When he finally broke the kiss, his voice trembled slightly. "You have no idea what you're doing to me." "Maybe I do," she whispered, smiling shyly. He led her upstairs to the master bedroom, and she paused at the doorway. The room was breathtaking. White silk curtains framed glass walls that opened to the lagoon, and a massive king-sized bed stood at the center, draped in soft linens. Warm lights glowed from golden sconces, and the faint scent of cedarwood lingered in the air. "This is like something out of a movie," she murmured. He turned to her, his gaze gentle but intense. "No cameras here, Amar. Just you and me." She hesitated for a moment, her heart thundering. Then, as he brushed her cheek again, she closed the distance between them. What happened next was slow, tender, and filled with emotion. The sound of rain began to tap softly against the windows, and the city lights reflected across the room as they came together, two worlds colliding under one roof. When it was over, Kola lay beside her, pulling her gently into his arms. She rested her head on his bare chest, listening to his steady breathing. He held her close, as though afraid she would disappear if he let go. "Amara," he said quietly, his voice low and rough with emotion, "I don't know what this is yet, but it feels real." She smiled faintly, tracing patterns on his skin. "It is real, even if it doesn't make sense." He kissed her forehead, his arm tightening around her. "They'll never understand this, you know. The world will call me foolish." "Let them talk," she said softly. "You're Kola Adeyemi, remember? You don't answer to anyone." He laughed quietly, then sighed. "You're brave." She looked up at him, her dark eyes calm and sure. "No, Kola. I'm just in love with how human you are beneath all this." He stared at her for a long moment, then pulled her closer. The rain outside grew heavier, washing over the glass walls in a soft rhythm. They drifted into sleep in each other's arms, billionaire and shoemaker, two souls who had found something rare in a world that measured love by class and money. That night, as the city slept, the mansion no longer felt empty. It breathed. And for the first time in years, so did he. Morning broke softly over Banana Island, its calm waters reflecting streaks of gold and silver from the rising sun. The mansion that had once been silent now felt alive with a different kind of warmth. Amara stirred gently beside Kola, her head resting on his bare chest, her fingers unconsciously tracing small circles on his skin. For a brief moment, everything was still. The hum of the air conditioner, the sound of seagulls outside, the distant laughter of the staff in the compound. Kola watched her sleep, her face peaceful, glowing faintly in the soft light. Something inside him stirred, a mix of tenderness and awe. It had been years since Head felt this kind of stillness, this human connection untouched by status or ambition. He brushed a strand of hair from her forehead and whispered, "You don't even know what you've done to me, Amara." Amara blinked awake, her chocolate brown eyes meeting his. She smiled sleepily. "Good morning." "Good morning," he murmured, kissing her softly. She looked around the room shyly, as if remembering where she was, the silk sheets, the soft white curtains swaying with the morning breeze, the view of Lagos Lagoon shimmering through the glass wall. Last night feels like a dream. Kola smiled faintly. It wasn't. She blushed and sat up, pulling the sheet around her. I should go before your staff starts talking. Let them talk, he said easily, slipping on a robe. They already gossip about my business. What's one more rumor? Amara laughed lightly, though a flicker of worry passed in her eyes. You don't understand, Kola. You're a public figure. You're on TV, in magazines. People watch you. They'll say things. He turned, his voice firm but calm. They can say anything they want. I don't care. She studied him, the confidence in his stance, the quiet fire in his eyes. And she realized he meant it. But the peace didn't last. At exactly 8:45 a.m., Kola's phone began to buzz endlessly on the marble nightstand. Then his tablet lit up. Then his intercom. He frowned, picking up the phone. His assistant's voice came through, trembling. Sir, you might want to see the news. What news? Every tabloid in Lagos, sir. You're trending on social media. Kola's brows knitted. What are they saying? There was a pause. Then carefully the assistant said, They have pictures, sir. Of you and the lady. From last night. Amara froze where she stood. Pictures? Kola grabbed his tablet and unlocked it. The headlines screamed at him. Billionaire Kola Adeyemi caught with market shoe fixer at Suya Spot in Beach. Adeyemi's new lover, from dust to diamond sheets. Love or madness? Board members demand explanation for CEO's reckless behavior. Underneath the headlines were photos, blurry but recognizable, of Kola and Amara laughing at the Suya stand, walking barefoot on Alagushi Beach, holding hands near his car. One photo even showed him brushing something from her lips, a moment that now looked too intimate for tabloids to ignore. Amara's hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God! Kola's jaw tightened as he scrolled through the comments. This girl must have used jazz on him. Why would a billionaire disgrace himself with a market woman? This isn't love, this is madness. Adeyemi Holdings is doomed if this is their leader. He tossed the tablet onto the bed, anger simmering beneath his calm. Who took these pictures? He muttered. Amara's voice trembled. Kola, this is bad. Your image. Your company. He turned sharply, his tone suddenly fierce. Don't you dare blame yourself. She looked up, startled. You did nothing wrong, Amara. They're the ones with dirty minds. They can't imagine love outside their glass towers. Tears welled in her eyes. I didn't ask for this. I just wanted to live my life quietly. He walked over and cupped her face gently. And you still will. I'll handle the media. I'll handle everything. She shook her head, her voice breaking. No matter what you say, Kola, people like you aren't supposed to end up with people like me. His thumb brushed away a tear. People like me? He repeated softly. Amara, people like me need people like you. I've been surrounded by wealth my whole life, and it never filled the emptiness. You did. Her lips trembled as he pulled her close. Let them talk, he whispered against her hair. They talked about Jesus too, didn't they? Amara let out a small, shaky laugh through her tears. You're comparing yourself to Jesus now? He smiled faintly. Not quite. But I'm ready to be misunderstood for what I believe in. An hour later, Kola stood before a wall of reporters outside his office in Victoria Island. Cameras flashed, microphones pointed in his direction. His PR team begged him not to speak, but he waved them off. He had just his navy blazer and faced the crowd calmly. A reporter shouted, Mr. Adeyemi, is it true that you're romantically involved with a woman who works in Balogun Market? He smiled faintly. Yes, it's true. A murmur spread through the crowd. Another reporter yelled, Don't you think that's bad for your image? For your brand? Kola's expression hardened slightly, though his tone remained steady. My brand doesn't define my heart. You can print that. What do you see in her? Another voice called out. He looked straight at the cameras. I see strength, honesty, and a heart purer than all the boardrooms in Lagos combined. For a moment, the press fell silent. The flashes slowed. His words hung in the air, clear and unshaken. Then he turned, got into his car, and left, leaving behind a stunned silence that would become the headline of the evening. Billionaire Kola Adeyemi stands by market lover. Love doesn't ask for permission. Back at the mansion, Amara sat by the window, scrolling through her phone as comments poured in. Some cruel, some supportive. When Kola walked in, she ran to him. "You didn't have to do that, Kola." He smiled and wrapped his arms around her. "Yes, I did. Because what I feel for you isn't shameful, Amara." So she closed her eyes against his chest. "Then I'll face it with you." He kissed her forehead and whispered, "That's my girl." Outside, the city buzzed with scandal. But inside, within the quiet hum of that beautiful Lagos mansion, two souls clung to each other, not in fear, but in defiance. Their love was now public, messy, and loud. But it was also real, and it was only growing stronger. The morning sun rose gently over Lagos Island, painting the sky in warm hues of gold and pink. The sea shimmered softly against the horizon, and a calm breeze carried the scent of salt and blooming flowers, lilies, roses, and hibiscus, that adorned the beachfront resort where the most talked-about wedding in Nigeria was about to happen. It was the wedding day of Kola Adeyemi, billionaire CEO of Adeyemi Holdings, and Amara Okafor, the lady who once fixed shoes in Balogun Market. The world had doubted them, mocked them, and called their love madness. But today, that same world watched in awe as love proved itself stronger than class, gossip, and pride. The beach was transformed into a breathtaking work of modern Nigerian luxury. White tents with gold accents lined the shore, crystal chandeliers hung beneath the canopies, and an aisle of fresh petals stretched down to the oceanfront altar. The sound of soft Afro-soul music floated through the air, mingling with the gentle rhythm of the waves. Kola stood beneath a grand floral archway, dressed in a flawless ivory agbada with gold embroidery, a coral bead necklace resting elegantly around his neck. His best man, Chief Whale, patted his shoulder with a grin. "You really did it, Kola." Against everyone's warnings. Kola smiled faintly, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "They said it was madness. I call it grace." Then the music changed. A soft instrumental of Beautiful Onion Eye began to play. All heads turned. Amara walked down the aisle, radiant and glowing like dawn itself. Her chocolate-brown skin glistened beneath her white lace gown, designed by a young Nigerian talent she had personally chosen. Her veil shimmered in the sunlight, and her steps were slow, graceful, and sure, the steps of a woman who had survived judgment and found love on her own terms. Kola's breath caught. The same girl he had met in a crowded market, kneeling by a stall and repairing shoes with a shy smile, was now walking toward him. His bride, his queen. When she reached him, he whispered softly, "You're everything I ever needed, Amara." She smiled. "And you're everything I never dreamed I could have." The officiant's voice rang gently above the waves. "Today we witness something rare, a love that rose above wealth, background, and opinion. True love doesn't care where it begins, only where it leads." As they exchanged vows, Amara's voice trembled with emotion. "Kola, when you found me, I had nothing but hope. You saw me for who I was, not what I lacked. I promised to love you in every season, in light and in storm." Kola held her hands firmly, his eyes glistening. "Amara, you taught me that love isn't luxury cars or business deals. It's laughter after pain, truth after fear, and peace after chaos. You are my greatest investment, my forever profit." The officiant smiled. "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride." Kola lifted her veil and kissed her deeply, tenderly. The guests rose to their feet, clapping and cheering as the waves crashed behind them. Cameras flashed, but this time, the world didn't call it madness. They called it love. That night, the reception glowed under strings of golden lights and chandeliers. The dance floor shimmered with petals and laughter. Guests in rich asoebi colors danced to live high-life music as Kola and Amara moved together, smiling like two souls finally at peace. A journalist approached, holding a recorder. "Mr. Adeyemi, months ago, they said your love story was madness. What do you say now?" Kola looked at Amara, her hand resting softly on his chest, her eyes full of affection, and smiled. "If loving her is madness," he said, "then I never want to be sane." Their home in Ikoyi radiated warmth and elegance. The same mansion where Amara once woke nervously now echoed with the giggles of a baby boy, their son, Kamsi. Amara had built her own company, Amara Footcraft, crafting fine handmade leather shoes inspired by her humble beginnings. She employed dozens of young artisans, giving back to the very community she came from. Kola often watched her from his office corner as she sketched designs by the window. "You've built an empire of your own," he would say. Amara would smile and reply, "We built it, with love." And as the evening sun dipped beneath the Lagos skyline, Kola wrapped his arms around her from behind. The air smelled of sea breeze and jasmine. From a dusty market stall to the marble floors of Ikui, their journey had rewritten what love could look like. True love doesn't ask for permission or approval. It breaks barriers, silences critics, and transforms lives. When love is pure, it is never madness, it is freedom.